Good evening. Welcome to South Asia Newsline. I am Arjun Chaudhary. Here are the top stories we're tracking for you on Wednesday, the 1st of April. Hundreds of displaced persons continue to return to Pakistan's tribal areas. India Supreme Court stays summons on former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh in coal scam. And ICC President Mustafa Kamal resigns following World Cup snub. And now for all the details. The Pakistan People's Party is planning to project Bhutto, the elder daughter of former President Asif Zardari and Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto, as the new face of the party. This comes amid reports of a growing divide between Zardari and his son Bilawal over the control of the party.
Bhutto could be elevated to a top position in the PPP as early as this week, local reports have claimed. Some also say that Bhutto for some time is being trained by senior female party leaders for her new role. PPP patron-in-chief Zardari is scheduled to make a big announcement on the occasion of the 36th death anniversary of Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. Party co-chairman Bilawal Bhutto, who is currently in London, has said he won't be attending the program on Saturday. He instead announced that he will be holding a massive rally in London to mark the occasion. He had also kept away from the death anniversary of Benazir Bhutto in December, bringing the divide in the family out in open. Bilawal, who was elevated to the top position of the party last year, had a troubled relationship with his father over party affairs. According to reports, Bilawal wanted to take over total control of the PPP, which Zardari refused to accept. The PPP, which largely depends on the image of Benazir and Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, has a strength of 48 lawmakers in the 342-member National Assembly.
Around 350 Indian nationals are on the way back to their home country from strife-torn Yemen by sea route. The evacuees reached the Djibouti port on Wednesday, from where they were airlifted to India.
The Indian government on Tuesday evacuated 349 citizens from the conflict-hit Yemen and sailed them to the port of Djibouti in a Navy vessel. 2 Indian Air Force aircrafts have been positioned in Djibouti to carry evacuees back to their homeland.
Last night, the first phase of this national effort involving the Indian Navy was successful. We were able to evacuate approximately 350 of our nationals from Aden in the darkness of the night, even while there were issues of their security, etc. And these Indian nationals are now on board INS Sumitra, which has sailed towards Djibouti. We expect that it would reach Djibouti by midday today, local time, and we have a contingent of Indian diplomats and senior officials headed by the Minister of State, Mr. V.K. Singh, to oversee their return to India from there.
Indian government has stepped up efforts to bring back stranded citizens following Saudi-led airstrikes on pro-Iranian rebels in Yemen. There are an estimated 3,500 Indians, mostly nurses, working in various provinces of Yemen. While India was undertaking all efforts to bring back its citizens, Pakistan has also sent high-level delegation to Saudi Arabia to take stock of the situation. Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif on Tuesday chaired a high-level meeting and sought an update on the status of Pakistanis still stranded in Yemen. Pakistan International Airlines' second flight departed to Djibouti on Wednesday from Karachi to bring back the citizens from war-torn Yemen. According to reports, Pakistan government has also sought the help of Chinese ships in the evacuation.
जो भी वहाँ से हम डेवलप करेंगे वो लेके आएंगे यहाँ पे फिर कुछ फैसले जो हैं जैसा कि मैंने पहले भी कहा है कि हमारे आईनी इदारे हैं पार्लियामेंट और बाकी पाकिस्तानी अवाम को एतमाद में लेके फ़ैसले करेंगे और पाकिस्तान का जो मफाद है वो अवलीन है उम्मा का मफाद जो है वो हमें बड़ा अजीज़ है.
There are at least 100 Pakistanis present in Al-Makla and 75 in Yemeni capital Sana'a who will be brought back by air.
Over 200 people returned to their homes as the Pakistan government began repatriation of internally displaced persons or IDPs to North Waziristan. More than 1 million people who had fled the war zone are expected to be sent back in 5 phases.
The opening day of the repatriation process saw hundreds of IDPs belonging to 62 families returning to their homes in various caravans on Tuesday. All the IDPs belong to the Shamiri area of North Waziristan. An estimated 150,000 families were displaced by the military operations in the country's lawless tribal areas when the government launched its massive offensive Zarb-e-Azb against the Taliban and other terror outfits in June last year. Over 1 million people had fled the trouble-torn region and taken refuge in temporary residential camps in nearby provinces for 10 months now. The repatriation began after the government claimed of freeing the area of insurgents. The Pakistan Army had last month begun registration of the IDPs to enable their return in a phased manner. Over 91,000 families are likely to return home in the first phase. The operation in the regions of North and South Waziristan along with the Khyber Agency killed over 1,200 militants, Army reports claim. Meanwhile, the 12th and the final phase of repatriation to South Waziristan was completed on Tuesday, in which at least 630 families were sent back home.
The Supreme Court of India on Wednesday stayed the trial court order of former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, summoning him in the multi-billion-dollar coal scam. Singh had moved the apex court, challenging the summons issued by a trial court amid high solidarity shown by his Congress party leaders. The stay also applied to industrialist Kumar Mangalam Billa, former coal secretary PC Parak, and 3 others. The Coalgate scam is related to the allocation of coal blocks to private companies during the first term of the Congress-led United Progressive Alliance government. The state auditor had claimed that the exchequer suffered losses worth $170 billion as the government chose to allocate coal blocks instead of a competitive bidding. Singh also held the coal portfolio during the scam, which is seen as one of the biggest scandals that rocked the UPA, which ruled India for 2 successive terms before being ousted from power in May 2014. The environment degradation and plundering of natural resources is on the rise in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. The green cover of the region is depleting fast, with the authorities turning a blind eye towards the issue of deforestation.
Pakistan-occupied Kashmir is known for its breathtaking natural beauty. However, the continuous degradation of the environment and plundering of natural resources is making life miserable in the region. Experts say if the hills in the ecologically fragile POK had not been stripped of the forest cover, the damage from the 2005 massive earthquake would have been far less severe. People of the region are seething with anger over the administration not doing anything to improve the matter.
जंगलात वालों को एक और ये काम करना पड़ेगा कि जिन इलाकों के गिर्द जिस आबादी के गिर्द जंगल है तो उस आबादी को इन जंगलात का जिम्मेदार बनाया जाए, कम्युनिटीज़ को स्टेक होल्डर बनाया जाए। आज़ाद कश्मीर के जंगलात जो हैं वो तेज़ी से ख़त्म हो रहे हैं, कम हो रहे हैं और 1947 में जो जंगलात का रकबा था 42% वो अब कम होकर 7% रह गया।
POK, known as a forestry state, has over 35,231 miles area under the control of local forest department, which makes up to 42.6% of the land. The POK government had in 1997 put a ban on cutting down of trees, but its non-implementation due to lack of political will and alleged benefits gained by government functionaries through corruption and involvement in the timber trade led to no improvement in the situation.
हमारे यहाँ देखते हैं कि रोज़ाना जो है जंगल का रकबा कम हो रहा है, जंगल के रकबे के ऊपर कब्जा हो रहा है और जंगलात जो हैं वो रोज़ाना हमारे कम से कम हो गए, जिसकी वजह से आए रोज़ सैलाब और जितनी बारिश हो रही है बराह रास्त वो ज़मीन पे जा रही है और बराह रास्त बारिश ज़मीन पे जाने की वजह से ज़मीन को नुकसान होता है। जहाँ पे जंगल होता है वहाँ पे बारिश जो है वो डायरेक्ट ज़मीन के ऊपर नहीं आती और बारिश की ब्लास्टी को जो है वो जंगलात कम करते हैं, तो बारिश की ब्लास्टी कम होने की वजह से फ्लड जो है वो नहीं आते।
More than 88% of the population in POK depends on natural resources like forests for fuel wood, timber, grazing and water. 89% of households use wood for cooking and heating purpose. POK's ecology is also a prime location for several endangered plant and animal species. The evergreen forests of conifers, locally with some admixture of oak and rhizome deodar, are the main species here. But most of its wood is sold to Pakistani furniture and flooring firms, which make products for consumers in Europe and the United States.
The Indian Meteorological Department has predicted more rains in Jammu and Kashmir, triggering fears of flooding in the valley yet again. The Indian Army has already deployed a large contingent to evacuate locals if the situation worsens in the northern state. A report.
The water level in the Jhelum River has receded, but it is still flowing above the danger mark as incessant rains continue to hit the valley. So far, at least 17 people have been killed in various flood-related mishaps ever since heavy downpour began over the weekend.
हाँ जी, अभी भी हमारे 3-4 दिन से बारिश हो रही है। हम नदी के मुंह के आगे हैं, हमें बहुत खतरा है। 3-4 दिन से बारिश हो रही है, बहुत ज़्यादा खतरा है। हम ना तो दिन को सोते हैं, ना ही रात को सोते हैं। हम बाहर ही बार-बार देखते रहते हैं कि कहाँ से नाला आ रहा है, क्या हो रहा है। बहुत ज़्यादा खतरा है हमें।
The National Disaster Relief Force and the Army have been deployed in the area to tackle any worsening of situation.
देखिए, हमने ये कॉम्पोजिट रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशंस ग्रुप बनाए हैं, जिसमें इन्फेंट्री का मैन पावर भी है, इंजीनियर्स का मैन पावर है, मेडिकल है, इसके अलावा इलेक्ट्रिकल मैकेनिकल इंजीनियर्स हैं। ये जो पिछली बार का हमारा तजुर्बा रहा सैलाब के दौरान सितंबर अक्टूबर में कि मतलब अब इनको हम लोगों ने हर तरह से इक्विप कर दिया ताकि कहीं पे भी जो फर्स्ट कॉल ऑफ क्राइसिस आए, एंड वी हैव डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड देम नॉर्थ, सेंट्रल एंड साउथ कश्मीर। तो जैसे ही फर्स्ट कॉल आएगा विल बी एबल टू डिस्पोज देम, एंड व्हाई वी हैव मेड इट कॉम्पोजिट बिकॉज वी लर्न फ्रॉम द एक्सपीरियंस लास्ट टाइम।
The unseasonal rains in Jammu and Kashmir come barely 6 months after the valley was hit by one of the biggest floods in its history, killing hundreds and inundating dozens of villages in September last year. The casualties were, however, drastically brought down by a timely evacuation of hundreds of thousands by the armed forces in one of the biggest relief operations in India's history.
International community and rights groups have expressed concern over the rise in attacks on seculars and liberals in Bangladesh. This comes as protests are continuing against the fundamentalists who are unleashing violence to curtail freedom of expression in the country.
The United Nations on Tuesday expressed deep concern over a surge in attacks on intellectuals in Bangladesh and called for respective basic rights, including the freedom of expression. The Amnesty International in a statement urged the Bangladesh government to bring the assassins of Washikur Rahman and Avijit Roy to justice. Authorities must immediately and thoroughly investigate both killings, ensure those suspected of committing the crimes are brought to justice, and ensure meaningful protection for journalists and bloggers at risk of attack, Abbas Faiz, Bangladesh researcher at Amnesty International, said. The US and France have also condemned the targeted killings and pledged their support in ensuring freedom of expression. 27-year-old Rahman was hacked to death in the outskirts of capital Dhaka on Monday. His murder came just a month after US national Roy was killed in a similar fashion.
Mustafa Kamal, the president of International Cricket Council, resigned from his post from the World Body on Wednesday. Kamal announced a decision after accusing his colleagues of acting unlawfully. He was reportedly unhappy over ICC chairman N. Srinivasan presenting the World Cup to Australia on Sunday. Conventionally, it is the ICC president who hands over the trophy to the champion team. Kamal is reportedly also upset over the manner in which his country, Bangladesh, lost to India in the quarter-final of the cricket tournament. He had questioned the quality of umpiring during the match after a few decisions went against the Bangladesh team, which got eliminated from the tournament after facing defeat to India. Well, that's the way it was in South Asia this evening. Before we conclude the top stories once again. Hundreds of displaced persons continue to return to Pakistan's tribal areas. India's Supreme Court stays summons on former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh in coal scam. And ICC President Mustafa Kamal resigns following World Cup snub. Now viewers can watch the show on SouthAsiaNewsline.com. You can also visit us on Facebook.com/SAsiaNewsline and follow us on Twitter at SAsiaNewsline. And that's all in tonight's edition. We'll see you same time tomorrow. Good night.